Troy, thank you so much for joining us on the Company Doctors Business Exam Room. We're really happy to have you here.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And you are known as the not so boring LinkedIn guy. You are the founder of Return Client and the Troy Agency. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I wanted to hear more about your background because some of it I can kind of identify with being half Filipino and half Caucasian, but maybe if you could share some of your background and some of the challenges that you faced growing up.
Oh, yeah. So I am actually half Filipino as well, and my mother's from Switzerland. So I'm Swissipino. So as far as the challenges, I think they're not unlike a lot of people. Filipinos in general are well off because a lot of them in the medical industry, and I was not. So I was from a divorced family. And I'm mixed. So I got a little taste of like the worst part of it, And so the Caucasians didn't really accept me because they think I'm Latin, and the Filipinos, because I was poor and mixed, I was kind of a mutt. So I always had to fight for everything that I did, So I have a different perspective on things. So I was actually friends with everyone, all classes and stuff like that. And so it allowed me to connect the dots and kind of make things happen. And that's one thing that was a little bit different. I don't know if I was the smartest person, but I was the hardest working individual, and the ones that always try to figure out what makes things tick in order to kind of move on, And so coming from kind of a low income area, you have to really earn your stripes, so to speak. So it was pretty interesting.
Well, that's one of the things that really stood out for me when we talked initially a while ago, and that is that you really do look at opportunities and look for those opportunities to help you succeed or move forward. After serving our country, you used the GI Bill to further your education.
I did. Yeah, I did. I joined the Army, and I was in the reserves for a large portion of the time. And I had to figure out, like, how can I afford to go to school? And I had to really think about what I can get away with, right? Of course, the GI Bill helped out a lot, but going to school full time and working full time is pretty difficult. And so I actually joined the Graphic Design Association, where I ended up being the president. And I said, wow, how can I do something with this, right? And so we looked at some opportunities in there, and I actually was able to fill some paperwork out for some additional funding. And it was really weird because out of 88 people, I scored the highest. And I thought they made a mistake because I'm not really that smart at all. So these other people are probably really slow. I don't know what it is. And they said, oh, yeah, you get a full scholarship. So it ended up paying for a lot of my equipment and graphics and things like that back in the day. I'm a little older than I look. Windows just came out, and so I had photography, had traditional graphics, and all these different things that some of my funding was being paid for. And so there was two things that I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure I kept my funding, because they were about to cut it. And then number two, I was in a 3D animation program in the engineering portion. And I wanted to create a certification so the graphics people can do it. And I was able to implement that. And 2 years later, they fully realized that and implemented all these additional courses. So I was actually able to help. And then they cut my funding. So what I did was I was friendly with a lot of the people there, a lot of the students, and a lot of them went out of their way and filled out a petition for me. And we did not for me, but for the program. And so I had thousands of signatures on it, and we sent it to the senators as well as the governor, and then the whole program flipped up and the funding went back. So I was able to finish school and not pay for school.
And you became a designer and a programmer, and your company was very successful, but then something major happened outside of your control that caused you to do a pivot.
Yeah, I had a company called ISO Interactive, it's ISO Interactive, and we did some fun work. We did Coca-Cola Enterprises, a couple of their websites, Xbox mobile apps, a bunch of different programs. We did a Harry Potter virtual world for free, had few 100,000 members on it, and a lot of gamification and stuff. And we loved it. We had a small little office, 2,000 square foot. We had a programmer with the designers, and they were working together. And it was great because we were creating things that other people couldn't. It was very magical time. Unfortunately, you just mentioned, it all crashed, and we didn't know what to do. So I'm in Atlanta, Georgia right now, and the company is in there as well. And at a certain time, these large corporations no longer used agencies. So they pretty much pulled the rug underneath everyone, and they would cannibalize the teams and bring them in-house. So instead of hiring mostly agencies, they took care of the things in-house, which again killed the whole agency model. It's much different than New York or LA. They depend on agencies there. Right. But the way it's structured here, they try to bring everything in-house because it's more corporate. And so we had to figure out what's going on. I said, man, this whole business is crashing, where I was making X amount a month, and now everyone's fighting over the same pennies. And so I ran into two friends of mine. One was a sales guy in New Jersey, and another was a friend of mine, Feta. He has another agency similar to mine at the time. And I was razzing him. I said, hey, Feta, my portfolio is much better than yours. How are you getting all this business, right? And of course, I'm razzing him. He does good work as well. And he says, I get it from LinkedIn. I said, what? Get it from LinkedIn? So it's like, I thought LinkedIn was for like resumes and things like that. He said, no, it's all about building relationships, And I had to sit back and think about it. And the issue was really me, because I have some type A traits. I know what I'm doing. I'm very good at it, but I don't date well. So sometimes I know the answer before the question, which is not normal. So I realized that, yeah, Troy, you're the weirdo. I said, I'm the weirdo, because I don't know how to date, And it's just, it's like, going out and finding what you like and telling them exactly what you think is probably not a great idea, So I'll go out and meet a beautiful woman and say, I find you very attractive and I want to have 2 babies with you, it probably won't work out really well,
Bye.
I know, right? Or smack in the face or drink in the face, one of the triage of exciting nights that probably won't work in my favor, So I had to really break the math down to date, right? To date in real life and date for business. And they were very close to traditional dating. So it's not about selling services. It's really about getting to know that person. How can you look them up and talk about their details? How can you have them engage with you? And through that dating process, that formula, I was able to convert really easily, under a short amount of time. And of course, LinkedIn has made a ton of changes, but the core values are always the same. It's about really networking, And when I mean networking, I mean really getting to know that person, not always networking for business. And so I've decided to you know what? LinkedIn should be for helping people, You really need to figure out, how can I help this individual? And by doing that, you have a giving mentality. When you have a giving mentality, it spreads out, and then you're able to get business as a side effect. So business is a side effect of doing good work. And so,
and I would think that people trust you, right? The foundation is building that relationship.
There's different ways to have people trust you. Yes, you're absolutely right. For example, if I have my 15-minute meetings, I have about 2 to 3 slots a day available for those things, right? They're not business oriented. They may have a need, but they usually have a problem, or it's a meet and greet. They said, hey, I have this issue here with LinkedIn with my business. I'm trying to resolve it. I'm doing A, B, and C, and I'm not getting the results that I want. And I said, have you tried to do this? If you do this, you'll be able to convert better. This has to be your goal. And usually what I say is right. I'm right like the vast majority of the time. And not everything works for everyone. But what that does is there's only one of three things that can happen out of that conversation. They try it and they appreciate it. And you give out this good energy in the universe and it comes back in whatever form. And they'll never talk bad about you, you know. Number two, they do what you say and it works, but they dig into it and they realize there's 23 other things that they don't want to do, so they hire me for it. They say, yeah, Troy knows what he's doing and this works, but now I have to get this other stuff done and I don't want to do it, you know. I want him to do that. So again, they hire me. The third is they like me so much, they say, you know what? My friend has an issue and I would love to run a recommendation. Recommendations are usually about half of people's business. So by doing things without seeking reward, it converts really, really well.
One of the things that I like too that you do, and that is sending just a short video clip. It doesn't have to be long, but even just a welcome or a thank you. And it really does have an impact.
Yeah, that's one of my day-to-day processes. So what I do with clients, I help them with their profile from top to bottom, SEO, visual, have people able to find them and able to accept their invites and things like that. I need to bump those numbers up. And part of that process is having the right type of client to engage, have a giving mentality. But the third part is have a day-to-day process. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to be on LinkedIn all day, unless you're me and you're supposed to be. You know, that's actually my business. But most people have to work, they have their job or they have their business. And so they have a very finite amount of time, whether it's 30 minutes, hour and a half, or whatever it is that they have to work on LinkedIn to kind of meet their goals. And what you've just mentioned was one of the biggest things, personalized engagement. So the video that I do, I actually use my phone and I use the mobile app to do a native video. And I just thank them for connecting. I thank them for connecting. I talk about them for one line. And I just say, hey, feel free to take a look at my profile. Any dots to connect, send me your booking link. I'm always open for a conversation. Very lighthearted. They just connected with you. They will take a look at your booking link, your profile, excuse me. And if they find anything, the onus is on them to engage with you. A third of the people who see that video converts to a meeting. So I could be sending out 4 or 5 invites a day, which is not much. But I get 35, 40 meetings a week, you know, and I don't want all those. I don't want them clients. I just want for the networking purposes. I don't only want a certain amount of clients per month because it's a lot of work. And so that personal engagement, they see your face, they hear your voice, that moves the relationship along the lines quite greatly because you're putting personalized effort in knowing who they are. So those things are important.
You were talking about profiles. What should people have in their profile? What is key to get others to pay attention?
I would say 70% of the profiles, when they get to it, are visual. You know, people are visual creatures, right? And then we're content second, you know. And so it has to look good. Content and SEO is important as well. SEO, Google has searched the entirety of LinkedIn. You know, and then you have LinkedIn searches as well. So those combination brings you a great number of people that may be looking at your profile. And the third thing is branding. You know, branding and your story. Sometimes the branding and story can be separated or together. And you mentioned I'm the not so boring LinkedIn guy, right? I was going to say the number one Swissipino LinkedIn guy, but only you would understand that. No one else would
limited,
get it.
Very limited audience.
Yeah, it's too confusing. So the not so boring LinkedIn guy is a mild joke, like just funny enough to have them remember you, you know? Oh, he's the not so boring LinkedIn guy, you know? Because I'm boring as heck, you know? Like I'm dry as toast, you know what I mean? So I don't do that for SEO purposes at all. I do that to distinguish a branding component so that sticks back in their mind, you know? And so you need to distinguish yourself from others in your field. That's really what it is. That's all it is. And you can use certain actual sales, old school sales tactics in there that will work to your advantage. For example, if you have a visual banner, you can have your tagline in there, and then underneath your name, you can have something similar to your tagline that's kind of saying the same message. The little sound icon that's on your mobile app for pronunciation, don't use it for pronunciation. Use it to tell what you're doing, And then of course you have the image with the upload of there as well. So the sales portion is the sales tactic is tell them again, and sometimes tell them again, because you have that repetition. And so if you have a visual banner with the title up there, and so they look at it from the top and they kind of go down. This is how they're scanning when they're reading. Another thing too is LinkedIn loves to match people like you. So instead of talking all about you, you might want to talk about your prospects. By naming those prospects, they tie the searches to the prospects. So there's all these little things in there. The about section is very important. It should tell the story about you as a human first. What was your, what happened? What was the problem? And then how did you solve it? Here in the States, we love a great, triumph story. That's why, what are these shows? These reality TV shows they're so popular because they're like, I was sleeping in my car, I had nothing, and a year later, I'm a millionaire. I made it. And they love that success story. That's the story that you need to put in there. And I'm being a bit extreme, but they have to see that human quality first, and then you can get into some of the stats and things like that, and the particulars that you're doing. Is
there a certain length that it should be, or like you don't want to go too long?
For SEO purposes, I try to maximize the number of characters. And take advantage of that, or whatever is appropriate. And I think that if the first part of your about story is interesting to read, which we just talked about, they'll read the rest of it. You know what I mean? So you have to use those same dating principles that engage, and then allow that other person to move further. And they'll dig into your stuff if they want to. They'll look at it. If it looks good, there's a higher chance that they'll accept your invite, or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. And so I think that a top-down approach for your profile to do a makeover is important for job seekers and entrepreneurs alike. So if you want to be known and want to be visible on there, most people are not doing it. There's very, very few people are doing that. And another thing too is for you to do your own profile is difficult. Even me to do my own, I have other LinkedIn experts, and I don't agree with everything they say because we have different flavors, but there's information there that's valuable that I didn't think of because I'm getting in my own way. I'm not seeing the forest in between the trees. So sometimes people need help.
Or just have that fresh eye, a different set of eyes looking at it.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of experts that are very good at what they're doing, but they're probably terrible at doing their own stuff. And it's human. It's a human thing. So.
Yeah. And sometimes people you may have done something really incredible, but in your own mind, it was like, it was just my job. But to other people, it's like, wow, you should be putting that in.
Yeah. There is a limit. So we're like, sometimes we're a little too humble, or we brag too much, or whatever it is. And so we're not a great judge of our own stuff. So having someone else to tell you that would be good to put in, it allows them to say, oh, okay, yeah. And allows them clarity. Clarity is the most important thing. When you build your profile properly, it actually helps you identify your prospects. Because if you have I help everyone, that's the worst thing you can say. I help everyone. That means you're telling me you're a flea market. You're not good at anything, Although I had an IT company and I built video games and I was a programmer and a UI UX guy and I was an award-winning designer, right? I may have mentioned that in the story, but I don't push that out there because it doesn't sound real. They're like, you're trying to say that you were a programmer and a designer and a UX guy and you did all these projects. I've had meetings in the past for my other company that the client wouldn't believe me because it's not usual. Yeah, so my resume, my actual resume looked like a cartoon because programmers usually are programmers, UX people are usually UX people, and sometimes they move over to the UI area and stuff like that. So you have to figure out, can I provide a story that's a little inspiring, and that they want to, actually pass the litmus test. And the litmus test is something really, really simple. If I run into someone or I meet someone and I say, you know what, I could have a beer with this person, right? Because we're in COVID times now. We just don't go out with anybody and whatever and tell our secrets or our special secret sauce for a business or our personal stuff and things like that. But there's those people in there that say, I can trust this person to give me good advice, or I could have a beer with them. If that person can have a beer with you, there's a possibility for future business. And that's the litmus test.
For businesses that may be listening to this or watching this, and they're on LinkedIn, they've made some great connections, but they don't know what else to do. What would be the next step that they should take if there was one thing that they should do tomorrow or today?
Well, if they're making connections, they should try to personally engage. That's it.
So again, that goes back to the video, perhaps, or
well, yeah, it could be the video. It could be using the little voice message. It's a little personalized. There's a difference between helping and spamming, though. So we should talk about that. There's a fine line.
Right.
Okay, so if you connect with someone and you give them a PDF without them asking, right? That's called spam.
Okay.
If you send sequence of messages, like after the second message, you send a third and fourth, whatever, that's spam. I'm not a proponent of sequencing on LinkedIn. It may be an email thing and all that, because LinkedIn specifically designed this stuff to make it even look more spammy because their messaging platform is so simple. So all the messages are in a row. So we're used to say, oh, I need to have 12 touch points or whatever. I said, no, you need to engage properly. You need to engage in an authentic manner. You need to engage in a way where you have an attraction model so they come to you. So maybe you don't want to connect with them. Maybe you want to follow them first. Maybe you want to engage in some of their posts and have them reply back. And then maybe a week later, you want to send an invite, a personalized invite, saying, I enjoyed your post and everything, love to connect. By doing that.
And that all goes back to knowing your audience.
Oh, definitely.
Getting the right audience, because it's not going to do any good for your business if you haven't got the right people.
Right. You can have a bunch of junk, for connections, or you can have connections that will produce money. If you go through some extra steps, you boost your whatever percentage up to 85, 95% acceptance rate, And another thing too is not just being accepted. That's one. Number two is you've already moved that relationship, down the line to be more mature already because, oh, they followed me. Okay, we're talking. We're talking several times. Oh no, now we're connected. So those are more personal interactions. You got to think about those are touch points. When I followed them, when I commented and liked a few things, there's probably 2, 3, 4 touch points in there and another post. And then when you send a connection invite, they'll say, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Yeah, okay, I'll connect with him, and they may already have a preset idea of how you two can help each other because there has been some engagement prior. So those things do really help. If you just do these sequences and stuff like that, it's salesy, and kind of
and annoying. It will get annoying for people.
Yeah, I don't care if you do business with me or not, because there's a huge chance I won't accept you as a client because I have a particular type of client profile that I have to accept. In order to me to work with the client, I have a set fee. So that's it. It's a yes or no. Number two, they have to have a giving mentality. And then number three, their audience has to exist on LinkedIn in an active form, a percentage of them. And number four, they have to be able to, properly engage and close a deal at some point. So if those criteria are not met, then we shouldn't do business. It's kind of a funny story. Prior, I had a bunch of clients and I fired a lot of them. I had to fire them. So this is not working out. And part of the problem was me because I was selecting the wrong client. So some of these guys were not making their meetings. So if I run personal introductions and you don't make your meeting, it looks bad on me, and some of the people just wanted to sell in the past. And I said, you know what? LinkedIn is not about selling. It's about engaging. Because if I have a meeting with someone and I'm thinking, and I had a meeting yesterday with a prospect, and I said, you know what, this person might be a good person for you to talk to because he does A, B, and C, and your networks are similar, and that means your network will expand, and you will be able to use his services. He said, that's awesome. What do I owe for you? I said, nothing. This is I have to giving something of offer, even if I'm not making money. And I know that I just bumped my 25% chance of converting him to a client to 50.
Yep.
And it's helping my other client anyway. So any way you cut it, it's a good deal.
And again, it goes back to the relationship, building that relationship.
It's all about relationship, being honest, having same values. Another thing too is a lot of people can't do this themselves. You need partners, you need people you can trust. I have another LinkedIn partner and I have an email partner, and they help me I have a monthly show and they help me run my show, and I have 2,000 or 3,000 people registered on it, and every month it gets a little bigger. And if it wasn't for those guys supporting me on this, I couldn't do it. I don't have enough hours in a day to get this stuff done. And so, and it's bringing business in. I make money from my main tier clients, and that ends up being residual. But I also want to help people that can't afford this kind of stuff, right? So I said, let's get a free show, and let's be accessible to some of these individuals that need help and questions answered. So let's do a courseware, and we're in the middle right now just polishing up our courseware. If they can afford all this other stuff, they can afford going through these courses, and then we have personalized engagement. So what we've done is how do we get the best of both worlds? Get a relatively low cost course where they can actually engage with us in real time, have actual consultation. Because what's going to happen is if they start doing these things, they'll come to a place where they can be a premium client. At the very least, they can be at a spot where they're converting and they're actually making money or succeeding in some of their goals.
Well, we're 2022 now, new year, maybe some final thoughts or wishes for businesses as we enter this new year.
What I would say is be authentic. And I don't mean to throw that word around. I like saying be human. If you're not, if you're not going to engage with the person, it's probably it's going to be a lonely year.
Right.
Yeah, because COVID and everything, people want that connection and stuff, So help people out.
I think, as you said before, if you give a little to somebody, it's going to come back to you. It may not be right away, but it may be later on. So I think that giving mentality is really, really important.
Yeah, business is a side effect of helping people out.
For any of our viewers or listeners out there who want to ask Troy some more questions, he can be reached, of course, on LinkedIn. He is the not so boring LinkedIn guy. Troy, thanks so much for joining us on the Company Doctors Business Exam Room.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.